Most people who look into the H-shaped Barndominium walk away with one question stuck in their head. Not, is it beautiful? They already know the answer to that. The question is, what does this thing actually cost? And I mean all of it. Not the number the contractor gives you on the first phone call. All of it. Today I'm going to walk you through every dollar. 5 cost layers that almost nobody explains in full, plus 3 money moves at the end that can completely change how you think about this investment. And before I go one sentence further, I need to clear up the biggest mistake people make when they start researching this floor plan, because it is costing them real money before they even break ground. People assume the H-shape is just a more expensive version of a regular Barndominium, a luxury upgrade, something you do when you have extra money to burn on architecture. That framing is completely wrong, and I am going to show you exactly why by the time this video ends. The H-shape is not more expensive, it is differently expensive, and for the right family in the right situation, it is actually the financially smarter choice over a 10-year horizon. Stay with me on that because the math is going to surprise you. 5 cost layers, 3 bonus moves. Stay to the end because the last one is the one that quietly saves people the most money and almost nobody talks about it. Let us start with the biggest one. Cost layer number 1 is your metal frame and shell. This is the bones of the building, and it is where the Barndominium concept gives you real structural savings over stick-built construction. For a 3,500 square foot H-shaped build, the frame and shell runs between $95,000 on the low end and $145,000 on the high end. Mid-range lands around $115,000. Now here's what I need you to really hear, because this is where people get into trouble immediately. That range is not about quality, it is about geometry. A standard rectangular Barndominium at 3,500 square feet has a simple frame. 4 walls, a straightforward roof pitch, clean corners. The H-shape has 2 wings, a connecting section, and junction points where those elements meet. The steel fabrication for that geometry costs more. Not dramatically more at the shell level, but it is the first place the H-shape diverges from the rectangle, and you need to know that going in. Cost layer number 2 is your foundation, and this is the number that genuinely shocks people. Here is the reason, and it is pure math. The perimeter of an H-shaped foundation is roughly 40% longer than the perimeter of a rectangle with the same interior square footage. You are pouring more concrete, you are setting more rebar, you are doing more work across a longer and more complex footprint. Base cost for the foundation on a 3,500 square foot H-shape, $35,000. Mid-range, $48,000. Premium with engineered specs and full soil preparation, $65,000. Compare that to a rectangle of similar size where you are typically looking at $22,000 to $40,000. That delta is real, and it is non-negotiable. You cannot change the geometry of the foundation without changing the building. So when someone asks me why the H-shape costs more than a rectangle, I tell them to start here. This is the honest answer. Cost layer number 3 is the roof. And I want you to pay close attention here, because this is the layer where cutting budget has the most dangerous long-term consequences. The H-shape has 2 junction points. These are the spots where the central connecting section meets each wing on both ends. From an engineering standpoint, those junctions are the most complex elements of the entire build. They are also the places where water finds a path inside if the work is not done precisely right. Base roofing cost, $28,000. Mid-range, $40,000. Premium with full standing seam, proper flashing details, and a 10-year labor warranty, $55,000. Here's the honest line. A bad roof junction on an H-shaped Barndominium is a $15,000 to $25,000 repair waiting to happen in year 4 or 5. I have seen it. The water does not announce itself. It works quietly behind the wall until one day there is a problem that is far more expensive than the money you saved by going with the low bidder on the roof. This is not the layer to find a bargain. Pay the mid-range minimum. Pay the premium if you can. Every dollar you spend on a properly detailed H-shaped roof junction is buying you years of peace of mind. Cost layer number 4 is your mechanical systems. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, and this is the layer where the H-shape does something that surprises almost everyone who goes through this exercise carefully. It costs more upfront, and it saves you money every single year for the life of the building. Here is why. 3 zones in an H-shape means 3 separate climate control systems, 1 for each wing and 1 for the central connecting section. Base mechanical cost for the full build, $65,000. Mid-range, $85,000. Premium, $110,000. That is higher than a comparable rectangle, no question. But here's what happens when your kids grow up and leave, or when one wing is occupied by an aging parent and the other sits empty for stretches of time. You condition the zones you are using and you shut down the ones you are not. On a single zone rectangle, you are heating and cooling the whole building whether anyone is in it or not. Over 10 years, the mechanical savings on a partially occupied H-shape versus a fully conditioned rectangle can run $8,000 to $15,000 depending on your climate and your energy costs. The upfront premium pays for itself. itself. You just have to know to count it. Cost layer number 5 is interior finish and exterior courtyard. I am putting these together because they move in the same direction and they both respond to the same decision. Interior finish on a 3,500 square foot H-shape runs $55,000 at base. Functional, clean, nothing extraordinary. Mid-range with solid flooring, decent fixtures, and real cabinetry is around $90,000. Premium finishes land at $145,000 and up, and that upper number has no real ceiling. The courtyards and landscaping run $15,000 at base, $35,000 mid-range, and $75,000 or more for a full outdoor living setup with pool, outdoor kitchen, and designed hardscape. Do not cut the courtyards below a level that makes them functional. The rear courtyard, especially the private one tucked between your two wings, is the feature that makes the H-shape feel like what it is supposed to feel like. A partially finished courtyard makes the whole investment feel incomplete. Budget for it, honestly, from the start. Now add all of that up. Base scenario across all 5 layers, $293,000. Mid-range, $413,000. Premium, $595,000. And we are not done, because here is what almost nobody puts in front of you before you commit. The hidden costs. The ones that do not show up in any contractor's first quote, but that every single person building this floor plan ends up paying. The land. An H-shaped barndominium needs a minimum of about 1.5 acres to work properly, and it needs the right orientation so that the rear courtyard catches the prevailing breeze and the wings shade each other during peak afternoon heat hours. The difference in lot cost between a site that works for this design and one that does not can be $30,000 to $80,000. The design itself. You cannot take a standard floor plan off a website and call it an H-shape. The proportions of the building, wing length, crossbar width, courtyard depth, all of it needs to be designed by someone who has actually built this configuration before. A proper commission runs $8,000 to $18,000. I know that sounds like money you want to save. It is not. A well-designed H-shape saves $40,000 in construction waste and change orders. Cheap design is the most expensive thing you can buy on a project like this. Permits. A non-standard footprint generates questions from inspectors that a rectangle never has to answer. Budget 3 to 6 extra months on your timeline and $3,000 to $7,000 in additional fees and engineering documents. And the buffer. 15% of your total budget. Always. No exceptions. No contractor who has ever told a client they would not need a contingency has been right. Add the hidden costs together. $45,000 to $110,000 on top of the bill. That is why the real, honest, all-in number for a mid-range H-shaped barndominium in 2026 lands around $487,000. Now here is the question almost nobody asks, and it is the one that completely changes how you should be thinking about this number. What does it cost not to build the H-shape? Run this scenario. Family with 2 kids and aging parents nearby. They build a standard rectangular barndominium for $320,000. 8 years later, mom needs to move in. They add a wing, $85,000. 12 years after that, their son comes back with his own young family. Another addition, $60,000. Total spend, $465,000. And a home that was never actually designed for how they ended up living in it. The H-shape at $487,000 was not a premium over that outcome. It was a prepayment. One build. Every zone already there. Every stage of family life already accommodated by the geometry of the building itself. And one more number worth putting on the table. If your family situation changes and one wing sits empty, a self-contained wing with its own entrance and its own courtyard access rents for $1,200 to $1,800 a month in most markets. That is $14,000 to $21,000 a year from a part of your building that otherwise just sits there. The H-shape is not just a family home. It is an asset with optionality designed into the floor plan. Now I promised you 3 bonus moves, and I want to be straight about what these are. The 5 cost layers I just walked through apply to everyone researching this build. These last 3 are specifically for the person who is serious about moving forward and wants to protect the budget they have worked hard to put together. If you are still in early research mode, these are worth knowing. If you are 6 months from breaking ground, these are worth acting on. Bonus move number 1, get your foundation bid before you buy the land. Most people buy the lot, fall in love with it, and then discover that the soil conditions or the grade require an engineered foundation that blows their budget. A geotechnical assessment on a prospective site costs $800 to $1,500. That assessment can tell you before you close on the land whether you are looking at a standard pour or a $30,000 engineering problem. Buy the assessment before you buy the land. It is one of the best $1,000 you will spend on this project. Bonus move number 2. Commission the design before you approach contractors. This feels backwards to most people. They want to get contractor quotes first and then figure out the design. Do it the other way. A complete set of construction documents before you go to bid means every contractor is pricing the exact same building. Without complete drawings, you get a range of quotes that are comparing different versions of your project. You cannot make a real decision from that. Complete documents cost money up front and they save you far more in the bid process. Bonus move number 3 is the one that quietly costs people the most, and it is one of the easiest to avoid. It is the cost of changing your mind mid-build. The H shape has proportions that matter. The ratio of wing length to crossbar width, the depth of the courtyards,
the ceiling height in the connecting section. These are not aesthetic preferences you can adjust after the frame goes up. They are structural decisions baked into the steel. The families who spend the most money on H-shaped builds are not the ones who went premium on finishes. They are the ones who changed something structural after the foundation was poured. A single structural change mid-build can cost $15,000 to $40,000 and add months to the timeline. Live in the floor plan on paper for longer than feels necessary. Walk the dimensions in your existing home. Tape them out on a floor. Make every decision you can before the first piece of steel goes in the ground. Let me tie all of this together with the one idea that matters more than any single number I just gave you. The H-shaped Barndominium is not the most expensive floor plan in the Barndominium world because it is extravagant. It is more expensive because it does more. 2 courtyards, 3 independent zones, natural light in every room, passive thermal performance, and the flexibility to reshape itself around every stage of your family's life. No other Barndominium floor plan does all of those things simultaneously. But none of that value is automatic. The design has to be right. The site has to be right. The budget has to account for everything honestly from day one. And the decision to build has to match where your family actually is and where it is going. That is the whole thing. Knowing the floor plan is not enough. You have to build it right. 2 questions for the comments. First, which budget range are you working with? Base, mid, or premium? Second, do you have a site already, or are you still in the land search phase? I read every comment and I answer build questions directly. If this gave you something real, share it with the person you are planning to build with, and subscribe because the next video is going to cover exactly how to evaluate a lot for the H shape, including the orientation mistake that costs families $800 a year in energy bills for the entire life of the building. See you there.